My name is Donato Montanari, and I'm the Vice President and General Manager for the Machine Vision Business Unit at Zebra Technologies. Just wondering, how many of you are familiar with Zebra Technologies? Do you know? Oh, great. Oh, fantastic.
It's a good deal.
Good number. So what you may not know about Zebra Technologies is actually we have a whole division which is focused on automation. And the name of the division is Intelligent Automation Solution. And way to look at what I do, I am the eyes in the division. So machine vision, in a very simple term, is the eyes of the robots that are used in a lot of these applications. And here's my good colleague and friend, Matt.
So my name's Matt Wicks. As Donato was saying, I run the robotics group out of Zebra. Got about 35 some odd years, I hate to say that out loud, but about 35 years of experience in industrial automation. I've done lots of things from traditional fixed automation to industrial robotics to advanced robotics in the warehousing and logistics space. And the robots that we'll be talking about today, or I'll be talking about today, are primarily around the mobile robotics space. The guys that run around, it's like an industrial-sized Roomba, but that runs around inside of your warehouse. So talk a little bit about that today. So thank you for coming. Hopefully we'll make it as entertaining as possible, and I'll try to stay warm. At least it was pretty cold when I first walked in here.
All right, so we'll try to keep this a little bit interactive, and I'll focus more on the vision side of things, Matt on the automation side, and then we'll leave some time for Q&A.
We'd probably be remiss with not mentioning, we did have one other panelist, Brent Brown, who runs our RFID and advanced localization team. So Brent has one of the coolest groups in the entire organization. If you've ever seen the next gen stats on the NFL, all of those, the tags that we use are RFID tags. So those are all Zebra devices that are used to gather all the player statistics, and that's out of Brent's group. So unfortunately, he's not here today, but nonetheless, I'll give him some kudos. So as we're going to get things kicked off here, I wanted to mention about this the study that we actually commissioned with Oxford Economics about organizations that leverage advanced AI and automation technologies and how they are seeing significant gains. We've seen this in automation for quite some time. We commissioned the study to actually take a little bit more deeper dive into look and how AI plays into the factor of automation. So we've got QR codes probably in the next couple of screens if you're interested in the actual study itself. So we'll talk about it just briefly, and then we'll get into some of the robotics or some of the other pieces here in just a minute.
And I think it's actually a very interesting study because it really looks at what are the practical advantages that automation brings and what are the impact on the profitability of organizations. And really, depending on where you are and what you do, but we see that by automating, not only you have like 1 to 3% improvement in what you do, but also the ROI of doing that is relatively short. And I think this is absolutely critical, right, Matt?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. I mean, we get into the ROI, we get into the actual tangible benefits, and I'll talk about that with regards to the robotics space. We see tons of things about humanoid robotics and all sorts of whiz-bang kinds of things that are going out there, but mobile robotics itself is really getting into this space where we are actually seeing advancements going from a novelty into actually practical use inside of warehousing space. It's no longer that it's like, oh, that's cool, you've got a robot. It's now more in the lines of what is it doing, how is it providing value, how is it providing tangible feedback. And we'll see that with AI as well. I think as we move forward in the future, and so back to the Oxford study, we talk about like manufacturers, over 2/3 of transportation logistic organizations and nearly half manufacturers are deploying AI for a variety of different types of things, inventory management, demand forecasting, predictive analysis. And I think this is just like just getting to the surface of where we can actually leverage this technology. And then, we mentioned about machine vision, RFID, and other kinds of things that actually feed the eyes and the positional information to enable the AI solutions to be able to be, quite frankly, more intelligent than they are without it.
So I think one question that typically comes up, right, is like about collaboration, right? How do these robots, these machines collaborate with the operators and the humans? And I find that really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, that's primarily where we're leveraging in with Zebra Robotics solution. So mobile robotics can do a tons of different things, where our solutions really focus in on pairing up people with our mobile robots to be able to do fulfillment applications, like for third-party logistics providers. Our mobile robotics solution is or mobile robots are an aspect of the overall solution that we provide. So our solution consists of like cloud level software that controls and orchestrates the robots themselves that can pick up and drop off carts, wearable technologies that can drive the workflows for the individual pickers or induction operators or pack out operators. And it's done in a very collaborative manner to where the people that are actually doing the fulfillment operation receive all their instructions from a wearable, and they don't say they're not aware of the robots that they're teamed up with, but it's not integral to their thoughts. Their thoughts are about where do I need to go, what items do I need to pick, and where do I need to place them, and it just happens to be in our case to some robots. So it's a very interactive, collaborative environment for a fulfillment solution.
And how do you orchestrate all that? Is it like a software platform or it's...
Yeah. The orchestration of the solution it's our own Symmetry software. So basically, you place an order online. Contrary to popular belief, not everything goes through Amazon, so lots of other players. I mean, probably in this crowd, I think probably most people recognize that too. But we've got third-party logistics providers that fulfill these orders. And so that interface is down to our software, and then the software acts as a conductor essentially. It orchestrates the flow of the pickers, the robots, and different workflows within the operations.
Which is, I think, probably one of the questions, if you're not familiar with the system, is like, okay, how much is it going to cost me, right? And what is the ROI compared to the traditional way of having labor and manual pickers and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here today and advertise our pricing for it because it varies for every one of our programs. But quite frankly, the approach of this is really recognizing that costs are a main driver and labor is a main driver in fulfillment. And so, robots are, generally speaking, not the cheapest thing in the world, but so it really then translates into what is that return on the investment for those robots. So we actually have some pretty interesting financial models to be able to go and provide these to solutions providers, so we can capitalize some of the implementation, initial integration, and then we use a RAS model to be able to then have a faster payback and basically translate some of that to an OpEx spend versus a CapEx spend. And third-party logistics providers in general don't really like to have large capital expenditures because they are primarily on a contract basis. And so those contracts are generally 3 years. And so you don't find a lot of these organizations going out there and buying a large fixed infrastructure automation solution, because those contracts that you have today, 3 years down the road, may be completely different, and that fixed automation solution may or may not actually work for you anymore. So you're going to go sink 10, 15 million bucks in a high density storage retrieval system that your contracts go away and now I can't use that anymore. So that becomes very problematic. So having a flexible automation solution that can adapt and add customers and, quite frankly, take away customers as well is really attractive to that audience. So probably instead of me going and rambling on about this, I've got a video actually from one of our customers. It's a Geneva 10, so we've announced that we've got a solution deployed with them. And there's a podcast that was recently done on, I'll read this on the screen, Supply Chain Now. So Brian Wright and Cody Up. So Cody Up is our lead account manager, our sales director. And Brian is the CEO and CTO of G10. And I think it speaks more volumes than I could probably ever say is to listen to our customers talk about the solution. And so I got a little video I'll play. If I can hit the right number.
I think you're going backwards.
I'm going, we're going to start this whole thing over again.
Yes, my name is...
Liz Donato. One more. There we go. I knew I could find it. Okay, and we're going to start this.
Yeah. There you go.
Tell us more about some of those big-time tangible benefits that you and the G10 team expect to realize, especially when it comes to efficiency, accuracy, and of course, delighting the customer.
Well, of course, the 30 to 40% in labor and the increased lines and ages per hour all play into it on the fact that Zebra is really a partnership versus, they're just throwing some robots in our facility and expecting us to figure out how to use them. That's not the case at all. We're working very closely with their tech team and everybody to make sure this is successful here at G10. But some of the peripheral areas are the reporting that it's going to be able to provide us around labor and tracking and picking accuracy and specifics around the people picking and all of those kinds of things are certainly going to be beneficial. The front end of grouping the orders together in the best possible, pick paths or tours, as they're called by Zebra, is going to be a significant savings. And we looked at that, over the last 2 or 3 years. I think that was one of the biggest areas that the competition, they all have the same type of algorithmic ways to save you money in grouping orders and those types of things. But the ability for Zebra to do some cubing and mix orders and really look at the pick path, we're really excited about using that and the savings that that's going to bring. And then, all the normal things like order accuracy. But I think one of the biggest things, and Cody just touched on it, is the future and the ability to use these robots to do replenishment and put away and returns, again, without having to buy specific new pieces of equipment, being able to leverage the technology that's there. And, every day we talk with Zebra about ways that we're seeing that we could potentially together improve the application as it's working today. And they're very open with their roadmap and adding to the roadmap. It's a very impressive roadmap as to where this is going to go. So really excited about all of that.
I think I went the right way this time. I'm not sure, though. We'll see. Actually, I did.
Tell us more about...
There you go. I went the right way this time. So what's actually really cool about this customer, too, is we launched the solution at ProMat earlier this year. So I don't know if many of you go to ProMat. They hadn't seen it before. They understood the value of the solution, the benefits that it offered to them, and how we could really offer them a higher value than some of the other solutions that are out there. I think the term they started to use is, hey, every time we run this system, we're starting to print money kind of thing. Like they're really seeing the value associated with this automation solution. So,
Excellent.
yeah. So maybe we'll talk about
yeah.
like AI a little bit.
Who has not heard AI mentioned at least 20 times today? So let me be time 21. Seriously, I think that, particularly for machine vision, AI is critical. In fact, the origin of machine vision are in the very early incarnation of AI. But really what AI does for you on an image is I think you
There you go.
the other way.
I'm messing with you, is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, you're not using AI.
It's the right button.
What can you do with an image, right? Other than reading the barcode or knowing if the package is here or there. I mean, the real power of AI is that once you have all these images, you store all these images, you can actually, in the background, run models that give you insightful information on your processes. That's at the end of the day, the real game changer, right? So you store all these images while you run your processes, while you move boxes from A to B, and then the AI comes back to you and say, hey, have you thought about this? We have noticed this anomaly. What do you think that means for your business? So this is really where I think this technology is going, the ability of becoming almost a companion, consultant kind of, entity that gives you insight that you may not be aware of in your business.
Yeah, do you see any other advances in machine vision technology beyond AI?
Yeah, another interesting thing, but let's say AI is probably right now to the next 3 to 5 years, it's all going to be about AI. But another very important trend, maybe a little bit further out, say 5 to 10 years, is three-dimensional images. So right now, everything we do is 2D, right? All these cameras, they're flat, right? You don't have information about the depth. But as the 3D technologies become cheaper and more affordable, then it makes sense to start looking at the world in 3D because the world is indeed 3D, right? And then we can think about combining 3D and AI in being able to uniquely characterize all these objects so that we don't need barcodes anymore. We don't need RFID anymore, but every object has a sort of a pedigree of itself. And that's really revolutionary. And some of large companies that you mentioned before, they're actually doing quite a bit of work in there. I think there is still a long way to go, but the combination of the two is definitely very, very compelling.
So, like, what are the kinds of applications that you see in terms of machine vision?
I think today, particularly in supply chain related, is how do we assist the operators and the labor, right? Everyone has labor shortage issue. Everyone has labor unpredictability issues and all of that. So how do we make our operators more efficient? And and it goes from very simple application like, hey, if I'm receiving stuff, right, it's coming off a truck, and usually I have, one of these zebra scanners that I need to, click and read the box and then move the box from A to B. What about I just have a camera and I just move these boxes, and while they are in movement, the camera actually read the barcodes, take a picture of the object, kind of like give me an indication if the object is actually in good shape or not, and so on and so forth. This is something that we see today as a very first milestone to automate with machine vision. Another interesting one is what and how vision can help in tasks that are dangerous today. So when I started in the automation business, my mentor said, hey, when you go to a warehouse or a factory, the one thing that can really hurt you is a forklift, because it moves and it moves very fast. So stay, very aware of that. I still remember that. I was very young back then, speaking of 35 years in the business.
Speaking of the gray hairs in there.
So actually, we've done quite a bit of work with a customer in France, where we have put our cameras on the forklift so that the driver doesn't have to stop, get off the forklift, scan a pallet before they load it. So perhaps we may want to get to that video. Shall I try to do it?
You should do it, because I've clearly demonstrated that I have no capabilities here. Play the cat video.
If you have a cat or dog, you know they're a lot more than just pets. They are part of the family. At Royal Canin, giving them high-quality food tailored to their needs really matters to us. In our Cambrai factory, operations never stop. They run 24/7. Nearly 2,000 pallets of dry food bound for every corner of the world are produced here each day. With production on this scale, keeping loading areas clear and safe was a real challenge. A warehouse operator had to scan labels manually, which was like trying to cross a road without a crosswalk. Not only was it a safety issue, but stacked up pallets could quickly clutter the area, making it harder for forklifts to move and increasing the risk for everyone on the floor. We spent 3 years looking for a solution. Zebra technology and Weo integrations changed everything. The dock door system, powered by Zebra's FS40 fixed industrial scanners, automatically reads labels. The ET60 tablets then show real-time tracking. And thanks to Weo's integrations, data is collected and then sent to the WMS, bringing all the information together seamlessly. A light system lets the forklift driver confirm that every loaded pallet has been scanned. Now drivers pass through their dock door with pallets without needing to cross pedestrians or do manual scans, keeping everyone safe.
et de cette façon, ils sont en sécurité. La porte de quai.
The dock door acts as a final checkpoint, verifying each pallet just before it leaves the
Le
plant.
type d'usine. Cet espace gagnant.
The space we've gained allows for better traffic flow, improved visibility and traceability, and above all, greater safety. Our overall read rate is nearly 100%, with a return on investment achieved in 3 months.
Maintenant, les caristes passent devant les...
Forklift drivers now move through dock doors without crossing pedestrians. It's much safer for the whole team.
C'est beaucoup plus sûr hein, pour toutes les filles comme ça. Zebra et...
Zebra and Wheel give us the confidence we need to keep digitizing our factories. It's a strong example for other plants to boost safety and operations efficiency.
de leurs opérations.
So that's a really cool example of leveraging machine vision in these different applications. As I was thinking about this, I got to recommend a few of my customers as well. I'm like, we got to go talk to Donato because that's some very valuable hardware here that could really help them out. So in terms of like investments in machine vision, like how do we ensure that we're future-proofing these? How do our customers ensure that they're future-proofing these investments?
Right. I think that the most important aspect to that is really to look at this as, from our point of view, as a solution and not just a piece of hardware or a piece of software, and going in and say, okay, what is a customer really trying to achieve, right? Because at the end of the day, yes, you know, the ROI for this customer was 3 months, and but that was really not their biggest problem. Their biggest problem was the safety of the employees, right? And because you had forklift and people crossing, and you never want to have that, right? So understanding really what is the problem that the customer is trying to solve, and then building a solution for that, and making sure that the solution is expandable. That's what is very, very important. In this case, the other critical part was, you know, how you interface with the WMS, and how do you interface with the rest of the factory, and that's where the, you know, Zebra really brings a lot of value, because of, as you've seen, you know, the tablet that we're using, we're a Zebra tablet, and the way we interface with our own components, obviously, is very much well integrated.
So we chatted a little bit about AI, but maybe we want to revisit some of that. I think about AI in terms of the robotic applications. I mean, my guess is pretty much everybody here in this room is trying to figure out, like, how do we best leverage the tools in AI? You hear, it seems like we don't go a day without watching at least in my world, a backflipping robot, or, you know, doing parkour, or who knows what.
Or running robots.
Running robots, right, running in a race, knocking each other over, all those other kinds of things. So I think we're all trying to figure out, all right, well, where do we add the most value in terms of AI and AI tools? I think from a robotics perspective, we're looking at it in terms of, you know, how do we improve our algorithms? We have a lot of heuristics, you know, like, okay, how do we pack the orders together? How do we route the robots and the pickers inside of the warehouse? Those kinds of things. But we're thinking about those kinds of tools in being more intelligent when the environments are so dynamic. You think about the order profiles in a warehouse, and, you know, they're never the same. They have lots of peaks, lots of valleys, lots of distributions that are unaccounted for and unanticipated. And so trying to write some algorithms to be able to accommodate that is pretty hard. And so that's where I see some of the tools within AI to be able to be leveraged. I mean, that's just, quite frankly, it's just scratching the surface. It's like we're all trying to figure this out, but we're seeing good opportunities. And when I think about AI, I also think about what value does it actually bring. You know, there's cool things that we could do, but in an automation sense, you know, it's got to work. It's got to work reliably. It's got to provide the right information. It's got to provide the right information all the time. And, you know, if you get the wrong answer on a chat bot, it's like, okay, you know, take it with a grain of salt because you're just reading it. But, you know, you get a wrong operational procedure to automation system, you might lose productivity. You might start dropping orders. You might pick the wrong order, all those other kinds of things. So certainly things to be aware of.
Oops. No, I mean.
Now it's your turn, right?
That's mine. It goes backward. Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So Donato, what do you think about that? I mean.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's at the end of the day, we're discussing this morning, right? So the way I look at AI is it's a tool, and certainly is a very, very powerful tool, but it's still a tool. So you need to use it when there is a need for that tool, right? And I think that in the case of vision today, probably the best application for AI is optical character recognition, right, OCR. Especially if you're a 3PL or a courier, like, you know, every of your customers have a different font, a different label, a different everything, and that's where AI shines. So in terms of being able to read all these fonts, all the everything really you throw at him, and it's really making a huge difference in the field for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a really exciting time. I think when I first started to see some opportunities, again, back to probably too long ago, but I was involved in the robotic palletizing space. And the robotic palletizers, for anybody who knows about this, originally were just, quite frankly, not real smart in the sense of have true intelligence. It's like, okay, you got cases that are coming off a production line, and you pick those cases because you know what size they're going to be, and you put them on a pallet, and rock and roll, you're good to go. But then there was this period of time where we started to see, like, oh, well, we combine computer vision, we combine some of the advanced compute, we leverage some algorithms and things like that are coming out of academics. There's a group out of California called Willow Garage, if you've ever heard, which is kind of like the genesis of a lot of the advanced robotics we see today. It predates driverless vehicles and all that, but it's like a lot of those things lead back to that group. And so it feels like we're on this continued journey with AI, is just being, as Donato, I think, very appropriately said, it's another tool in our toolkit to be able to solve problems that may not have been solved before, or to be able to solve them in a better way that offer better efficiency to allow for a return on investment and a viable technology as we move forward. So super excited about where things are headed here, and I'm the glass half full kind of guy too. So, but I think it's going to offer some really pretty amazing opportunities in the supply chain space, logistics space, automation space, and lots of others.
Shall we open for questions?
Let's do that. Now, don't everybody run up to the microphone at once here. You know, just take our time. There's got to be at least a couple of questions here.
Well, I got some questions. So,
go for it.
You were showing kind of more like the each pick to tote on those
Yep.
three. Do you have anything? Because I thought that maybe you had some case pods where it's
Yep.
basically the same process.
Yep.
Pick case to pallet on something that can hold like 2,200, 2,500 pounds.
Yeah, so this is some of our legacy products. So right now we're focusing on, so if it's not a, so we can do case pick, but it's a lighter duty, so it's about 500 pounds. But we also do pick to shipper. So we can actually load those carts up automatically with, so we know what products that we're going to be picking, and we have cubing algorithms that can cube out those shippers.
And the shipper case, can it print the label at the AMR?
AMR doesn't print it. We do all the picking, keep it the shipper at on the carts, and then when we do pack out, we do all of that at the pack out bench.
Okay.
So
on the system that drives the AMR with the WMS, all the picking function, I'm going to do this quantity, I've got a short pick, is that all in your system, or do I have to build that?
no, it's all, so the wearable will drive the picker, what they need to pick, how many they need to pick, those quantities. I think you maybe you're alluding to like exceptions, like, well, what happens if there's nothing there, or I can't pick anything. There's an exception mode built into the wearable as well, so that certain exception modes, they allow the worker to skip that pick, and then we'll track that and then communicate that back up to the WMS.
So integrate your system, and then kind of average speed to execute a implementation.
It depends. The longest pole in the tent is the WMS integration with our customers. And it has gone from a matter of maybe a few weeks to way too long. And it's not like anything that's within our control. We've got standardized APIs in our code. We've got a very clear, defined how you interface to the WMS. A lot of times it's more of the challenges with what needs to happen on the WMS side of the equation that takes longer than anything. So we'll do a conference pilot, check all the messaging, all that communication, make sure that it's all rock solid. And that'll happen before we really get rolling on any boots on the ground or robots on the ground. Once we hit the robots on the ground, it doesn't take very long at all. It's a matter of a few weeks. So it's mapping the facility, identifying the inductions and pack-out stations, making sure the signage is appropriate. Sometimes there's some hygienes of the different facilities that need to be worked through. Operations need to be trained. Training is super simple with a guided workflow because basically you just do what's on your handheld and you're rocking and rolling. Operations training is a little bit more detailed because, how many pickers do I staff? What's the productivity? What's the best way to do induction? Those kinds of more operations management time takes a little bit more effort, but generally speaking, it's a pretty lightweight installation. Great questions. Thank you.
I wouldn't know about the pricing. Typically, everything we do is internally developed, and it's actually something that we're pretty proud of, our decoding ability and capabilities. I think it really depends on if you're trying to decode from a camera, which is a fixed reader, or if you're using let's say, a handheld, right? I think that the level of libraries that you need for either case are very, very different. And in the case of a fixed reader, they're usually much more sophisticated because you don't have the ability of doing this, and this helps you reading codes, right? So.
What's your recommendation, assuming a company is very far behind, which I'm sure a lot of us can relate to? What would potentially be the most impactful starting place where you can see, kind of maybe convince and get more buy-in from leadership to say, here's the ROI on this first step and be able to go from there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, it's very common too. It's like, how do I go from hey, I don't have any automation, but I can see a need for it, but then like, how do I really articulate this to be able to convince my organization, like we should go forward with this? I think the very first thing is start with your application. Start with like where you're at. Understand what your current productivity is. We've got a team of applications engineers and sales engineers. Those sales engineers essentially will support that process too. I mean, they go through and support those analytics, trying to understand we'll do time studies and really understand what that base performance is of that system. And where you're at today, and what's your process look like today, and maybe you need to make some process changes that may or may not be needed for robotics, but they really do that analysis to understand where you're at, and then we'll layer in, okay, if you were to leverage the robotic system, here's where we see you having value. And this is what a robotic system would look like. This is, the work through that ROI, how quickly, what's the cost associated with it? What value are you going to see with that? And how quickly is that payback going to occur? So, yeah, it's not just, throw some robots at it. It is definitely a process and something that we're very familiar with, just helping folks such as yourself work through those problems.
Yeah, bit of advice on the vision side. Start easy and small. What we see typically, people they want to, go from 0 to 100, because they do the math and the ROI is there because the ROI is really, really significant. The problem is if you go to 0 to 100, your deployment time is very, very long. And then when you have a very long deployment time on a new technology, a lot of things can change in your company. Right, and that will affect the program at the end. So starting with something very short, even if it doesn't really have a great ROI, but you can demonstrate you deployed it, that it works, right? And then do it a little bit longer and so on and so forth. I think that's really a sort of like a, risk managing the new technologies. Because the worst that can happen is there's all exciting about this new technology, and then the deployment struggles, and then all the excitement is gone, right? And
Any other questions? The silence is deafening. Well,
all right.
yeah.
I think it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate the great questions and the engagement with our two-man panel, and really am very optimistic about where we're headed here in this industry, and certainly don't hesitate to reach out to myself or
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.